Hey everybody, welcome to the Song Revolution podcast, brought to you by Nashville Christian Songwriters. Nashville Christian Songwriters exists to empower Christian songwriters worldwide. I'm John Chisholm, and this podcast exists to bring you valuable songwriting insights, inspiration, interviews, and just all around good fun with some of the greatest songwriters, producers, arrangers, artists, and creatives, and beyond. You can find out a whole lot more about us at NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com. Hey everybody, John Chisholm here. Welcome to the show. I've got a great one for you today with my buddy Peter Hartzell, who is the owner of Treehouse Media. We're going to be talking about building an audience for your music. I mean, you spend a lot of time and you put your heart and your soul in your songs, and you want them to be heard, right? So this is part one of a two-part series in which we're going to be giving you some practical ways that you can build an audience who will love you and love your music. But before we get into that content, I want to welcome Word Worship Music to the show as our sponsor. If you haven't checked out their website at wordworship.com lately, I want to encourage you to jump over there now and check out all the great artists and songwriters and worship leaders that they work with. Great people like Benji Cowart and Meredith Andrews, Sarah Reeves, Big Daddy Weave, and so many more. I also want to encourage you to jump over to our website, NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com, and to pay special attention to the upcoming NCS Weekend Intensive happening right here in Nashville, April 25 through 27. And we're going to be featuring live music producer Tom Jackson, who's worked with many great Christian artists like Phillips Craig and Dean and Francesca Battistelli, Lecrae, awesome folks like Shawn Mendes, Taylor Swift, and too many to name here. The NCS Weekend Intensive is 3 days of hands-on coaching and teaching and networking with some of the top Christian music industry influencers around. So jump over to our site, go ahead and grab your spot before they're gone. We're offering a new pre-registration option where you can save $100 if you register by April 15. We want to see you here in Nashville, April 25 through 27. So today's show is all about helping you build an audience for your music, and I want to welcome our producer and owner of Treehouse Media, Peter Hartzell. Hey, well, you are the owner, operator, crazy media marketing guru at Treehouse Media. So
Yes,
tell us
sir.
a little bit about that.
That's awesome. Well, thanks. I mean, obviously, being part of this podcast is really exciting for me because though I do own a marketing media company, I'm first a musician and worship leader and songwriter. So I was very excited when you and I first started chatting a little bit about some of the possibilities with this podcast and getting to partner with you, getting to kind of leverage some of my experience, both in the music industry and also just in the corporate world and business and marketing and all that. Treehouse Media primarily focuses on utilizing podcasting and video content marketing to build an audience and to draw a crowd and really to get as many eyeballs as possible on what people are offering, whether it's a product, whether it's a service, whether it's a cause, a nonprofit of some sort. And as you know, in the internet age, the Facebook age, video is so powerful, and people gravitate towards video content because they can engage with it. They can see the host or the person that is offering the product or the service, and they can identify better than just through traditional newspaper or print marketing from yesteryear. So we're in a really exciting new era for producers and creators and people that have something special and unique to offer that is valuable. I really stress that a lot with the people that I interview to work with me is the thing that you're offering providing value. If it's something that I feel is beneficial and edifying and all that. I mean, of course, I'm a Christian, so I do take that perspective on most things. There's been several jobs that I've turned down because I felt like they were not edifying and kind of perpetuating the wrong idea or the wrong thing that was not moral or whatever. And so as a business owner, I have the luxury of being able to kind of select the projects that I take on, and being part of NCS and working with you, John, has just been an absolute pleasure and a dream. And it's so much fun to get to kind of bounce ideas off of someone that is so visionary. I know you joke sometimes that you're just an old guy, but for being more mature and more experienced, I would say it that way. You're not old in the way that you think. Your mindset is definitely fresh and young, and I've really appreciated that about you. So getting to partner Treehouse Media and Nashville Christian Songwriters, I think it's a really cool partnership, and I'm so excited for what's ahead.
Oh, cool, buddy. Well, thanks. Well, thanks for bringing the age thing up. So, hey, honey.
Hey, you've mentioned it. You've mentioned it a few times, so I figured it was free game.
Honey, get my walker. I've got a writing session to go to.
You don't sound old though. You don't sound old on the podcast. You sound young and strapping.
Hey, listen, we work hard. We drink a lot of vitamin C around here to try to stay healthy and keep things going. And the cool thing about NCS is it really is the convergence of my entire life in the music business and also in being a worship pastor and a mentor and coach really through all my life working with the Gaithers. I've been mentored by some incredible people in my life, and occasionally I'll sit down and just reflect. As a young Christian, I wound up on the platform as a worship leader. We didn't call it worship leading back then. We called it song leading and singing, the singing ministry. But I actually wound up on the stage of Kenneth Hagin, the great healing evangelist, for a couple of years. And I did camp meetings and all kinds of the charismatic movement, lots of healing services, lots of extended worship times, and was mentored for about 2 years by Kenneth Hagin himself, and I was very close to the family. And then once we transitioned over to Nashville, I had the blessing, the very good favor of God to run into Bill Gaither and be signed to a contract. When I know those songs weren't any good. I think God just stopped up his ears and he had pity or something. But I wound up working with the Gaithers for about 7 years and was mentored on a very consistent basis by Bill and Gloria, and learned so much. In fact, so much of what I teach here at NCS really came from them. And so I'm very, very thankful. Amazing. And there's some other wonderful people like Dr. Robert E. Weber, the late Dr. Weber, who they still have the Dr. Robert E. Weber Institute for Worship Studies down in the Jacksonville, Florida area. And they offer master's and doctoral studies, graduate studies, and I was able to work on some projects with Dr. Weber and do some video work, and was a contributing editor for his 7-volume encyclopedia of worship, and which is kind of like the gold standard. And so I've had some tremendous mentors, and now it's my turn, to pour out. And I want to go back to something you said earlier. I mean, and I'm thankful. Thank you for recognizing that I'm old as dirt, but still, can sound kind of hip. So I think I just threw my hip out. But anyway, so the deal is, I feel like this is the convergence of all those worlds, because there is a hunger, worldwide for worship. It's not going away. It's not dying down. And despite hundreds and thousands of worship albums and, vertical worship and Hillsong and Bethel and Elevation and Gateway and all these amazing global worship ministries, this thing's just increasing. It's not going away, right? And so, we get to play our part to encourage and equip and mentor and train people who want to write worship. And the opportunities are just growing every day. So anyway, I didn't mean to go on a big rant about all that, but
so good, man.
I just see that NCS is kind of a convergence of all that, right?
Yeah, and I was going to say on that point too, I think that, it's really cool because, what NCS is doing is it's really looking at people who already have a strong heart and desire to craft songs and write songs, whether it's for their local church community, whether it's for just for themselves, they would just want to be a better songwriter. And, but the reality is we are all worshipers, and we all love God, and we want to express the gifting through the gifting of whether it's being a musician or just a writer. I know lots of writers that are not musicians. They in fact, some of my favorite songwriters can't carry a tune,
I know, right?
But they know how to put together, craft really amazing, really impactful songs. But the reality is, God, it's a biblical principle. God will be glorified, and the things that are in our hearts to kind of turn back to Him, those things of worship, they're there, they're planted by Him in our spirit. And so really all we're doing is just kind of helping to guide the ship and say, okay, you've already got this in you to glorify God. You were designed and created to be a worshiper. And so here is now some of the tools and the things that you need in order to translate that into something that's actually able to be really communicated in a broader sense. Now, of course, we all know that there's those very simple songs that somehow transcend ages and ages, and they're the songs that never had a record label, and the writer is still unknown.
Yeah.
But they're those songs that have just kind of transcended. But there's only a handful of those that have lasted and really stood the test of time. Likewise, there's only a handful of songs that actually were written with intentionality that have stood the test of time. And so finding a group or an organization like NCS that is backed by, staffed by, partnered with some of the most powerful, successful, knowledgeable people in the music industry that have found some formulas and some things, maybe not formulas, but some keys, some elements, some things that are really necessary in order to have a broader reach with your songwriting. And, it is a craft. I tell people that all the time. Songwriting is a craft. It is an art. And just like anything, you can sharpen your tool belt, sharpen your tools.
Right.
You can keep the tools in your tool belt sharp, and you can work on specific elements of your songwriting that will only make you better over time. And if it's something that you really value, if it's a skill and a craft that you really want to be excellent at, which I think is also a very biblical principle, being excellent at everything we put our hands to, then finding mentorship is absolutely essential. And, there is no replacement for it. I think that, we invest our time and our money in things that are valuable to us. And I just read a quote the other day. A guy said, show me your bank statement and I'll tell you what you value. And I was like, ooh, that's a tough one, because it's true. Like, we spend money on things that we value. And sometimes the things on my bank statement show values that I actually don't really want to be values. I think that so I think it's important to kind of take a look at that, and what are the things I'm putting my time, my energy, my thought, my emotion, and my money, my finances into, and are those the things that are going to really cause me to grow, be eternally effective, or are they here and gone? Are they flash in the pan? Am I going to be what am I going to be remembered for? So that's another, again, sorry, tirade, but I think that's something I really love about NCS. It's so awesome.
Hey, thanks for that. But, so many great things that you shared just then. I mean, it's the difference between spending your money and investing your money, right?
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's so easy to just spend, and I know I've done this in my life, rather than investing in the things that are going to bring a long-term return. And I think that's where a lot of aspiring songwriters that I've interviewed and talked with, and I've personally spoken with over 800 aspiring songwriters in the last 2.5 years, specifically about the boot camp program. So many people were interested in that and continue to be interested, but I've conducted so many interview calls with songwriters, and people feel passionate, they feel called, I've had people in tears, and yet they want they just want it all to drop on them, and that can open a whole can of worms when we talk about that.
Oh my
but
gosh.
it's like, maybe we shouldn't do that this episode. let's do that another time, but we'll save that, because I wanted to go back to a couple of other things that you said even earlier, you know, in the sense, I mean, this is part one of building an audience for your music, and we're talking about investing in the right things to do that. And I know we've got a number of points that we want to make between now and the next episode. But before we get into any of that, Peter, I wanted to talk about the fact that we are in a new music economy. And I've heard people refer, you know, to this era that we're in as an a la carte era, where you basically can just go pick and choose whatever you want. I mean, obviously the internet, digitalization of not just music, but education itself. I don't have any stats on university enrollment, but, you know, from just anecdotal evidence, you know, it seems like we all depend so much more on our phones to look up tip amounts, or I mean, who wants to go figure that out, right? Right? I mean, so everything is just at our fingertips. I mean, GarageBand itself is on our cell phones now, for crying out loud. So it's like you can find out, it's like Google is God, right? I mean, you can just go, you know, why pray about it? You can go Google it. But it's, you know, we're kind of living in that time where everything is at our fingertips, and yet, you know, we're awash. I say it like this. It's so poetic. I love this phrase. I made this up. I'll take credit. We are awash in a sea of mediocrity.
Yeah, man, that's so good.
You know, what do you think about that? And it's like,
really true.
You know, I mean, any kid with a cell phone can spin a video out with a song, you know, in the next 10 minutes. And the last stats I read, over in the next half hour while we're sitting here talking, over 18,000. Did you hear that? 18,000 hours of video is going to be uploaded to YouTube.
Man.
Dude, I mean, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
So, you know, if you're trying to build an audience for your music, can anyone afford to just add to the malaise, add to the mediocrity, you know?
You're right. And I think that is definitely the key question, is in the sea of mediocrity that we are a very small life raft floating on. How do you stand out, and how do you reach an audience that, and we'll definitely get into this more in the next episode, but how do we stand out? How do we make our voice heard? And how do we make, really, I mean, the real, at the root of it, it really should be, how do we really make a global impact? How do we make an impact on lots of people's lives, and use our songs and use the things, the giftings that God's given us to impact people and to transform lives and to lead people to Jesus. So,
you know, I think that I've got a real key answer to that question. How do you stand out?
I think you do too. I think you do too.
A couple of weeks ago, and I had already had this really, really, really strong stand on the difference. Okay, what makes an artist or a communicator stand out? And it's not passion. It's not. It really isn't passion, and it's not even calling. It really isn't, because I believe it. You know, the Scripture says, the Gospels say that, you know, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. And over 800 people have sat here on the phone and told me they're called, but so a tiny fraction of them, so few of them are really walking that calling out, because it's hard, you know, to walk in passion. Think of the passion of the Christ. It's like, that means to suffer. That means laying down something that's good for something that isn't just better, but the best, right?
Yeah,
And so
come on.
here's the deal. Here and a couple of weeks ago, if you go back and listen to the episode with iconic CCM producer Greg Nelson, he said this very same thing, and he said that so often vocalists or artists will come to him and sit down, and they've got money, they want to produce a big record, and he looks them in the eye and he says or asks, "What is your mission or / message?" And they have this deer in the headlights look, right? They can't answer it. And every time, I mean, when I'm dealing with our boot camp clients or our NCS weekend attendees or, people that I'm working with in any capacity, that's become the primary question. It's like, okay, why are you even trying to do this? And they say, well, I just want to use my gifts for God. Well, okay, good, fine. That's awesome. Matthew 25, good stewards and all that. Well, what gift do you have? Well, I can sing. Okay, well, everybody can kind of sing to one degree or the other. That's great. So, why do you want to sing or write or whatever, right? And
Right.
So few people can look me in the eye and say, you know what? When I was 18 years old, I was a drug addict, or I was addicted to porn, or I was messed up, or whatever, and Jesus invaded my life and he has brought miracles, and I've got to tell, so few people really have that kind of inspirited calling or in that kind of enthusiasm and passion about what they're trying to say. They don't know what they're trying to say. And if you don't know what you're called to say, well, I'm called to just encourage people. Well, okay, well, go be a Walmart greeter.
Totally.
No offense to Walmart greeters. I mean, God bless them. I may be one day, maybe next week after this podcast airs and people get mad at me or something. But, I'm there on my walker because I'm so old, as we pointed out here so far. But you know what I mean? It's like, Peter, come on. Everybody says they're called. Everybody says they're passionate. Sure. Everybody says that that they want to do this thing. But then nobody knows what their mission is. Nobody seems to be able to get to that core message. Well, it's about God. Well, yeah, everything's about God. I'm on a rant. Right. I'm on a rant. Listen to me. I'm just going off. But
listen, I think it's so good though, because I think you're hitting on the millennial generation really does have an affinity for wanting things to be done for them. And I definitely understand that sentiment, thinking that, well, why would I want to really invest my time and energy in something if somebody can do it for me? And if I don't have to put in my own blood, sweat, and tears to make it happen. If you look back just a couple generations, there was a generation that really built America on the heels of World War II, the greatest generation, which was, my grandfather's generation. And
the builders.
Right. And they built, America wasn't totally toast after the war, but economically speaking, America really needed something to happen. And they came in and, started building stuff, making things. And they didn't, I'm sure there was some complaining, but they didn't complain. They didn't fuss over all the hard labor because they saw what they were building and they saw the long term, we are building America. We're building a legacy for our next generation, our kids and their kids and all that. And so then, the baby boomer generation comes along and is kind of picking up the baton from that and wanting to pass on an easier hand for their kids, which was my generation. And so we came along and felt like, oh, well, I don't have to work as hard because my parents did everything for me. And we don't totally understand and really buy into the value of that hard work that doesn't get any recognition, doesn't get any play. And but really that's the stuff that these amazing careers are built on and these amazing legacies are built on, is the hard work that's done in secret when no one knows. And, and again, I mean, obviously, I want to promote NCS as much as I can because I really am a huge believer in what NCS has to offer. But these, intensives, these weekend intensives, and the boot camp, and even just the membership with the master classes alone. I mean, I think that's such a huge value. I mean, it's like what, $15 or $16 a month to be a member, and you get a 90-minute power-packed masterclass with a real pro that knows what they're talking about, and you can't buy that anywhere. I mean, you really can't. Like, the stuff that you're offering, John, is not available anywhere in this format or anything, and we're putting together we're putting together content that is not just informational and helpful, and it's not just to make a quick buck. Like, this stuff is it's like you said in the beginning, this is your legacy. This is your blood, sweat, and tears, all the stuff you did in the the years and years and years and years of hard labor when no one was watching. You now get to stand on a different place and say, okay, I've got some experience, I got some knowledge and understanding, and I'm willing to share it. And that's what a mentor does. And man, we all need mentors. I crave mentorship daily, and I love learning and gleaning from mentors that can kind of call me out on stuff. And that's what I think what the boot camp really can do. So anyway, I don't want to rant too much either, but I think you're hitting on a culture thing with a generation that really I would love to see us go into a kind of a new phase, and for younger people to really, if you're 18, 19, 20 years old and you're like, man, I like to write songs, but I just don't know what to do next. Find a mentor, and John is a great one.
Thanks, Peter. It's why I'm old.
That's true.
If we weren't seeing fruit from it, I think I would just pack it in. It's like, because people, I had somebody, send me an email this week and say that they thought I was, marketing too much. And I wrote this long thing in our Successful Christian Songwriters Facebook group, because it's like, marketing just means you're telling people what you've got to offer. And it's kind of one thing for me to talk about it because it's, I'm the guy behind the curtain here. But, we're seeing people who didn't know anything about songwriting from age 20 up into their 70s. Yes. Really understand songwriting for the first time in their lives, and they've wanted to, they fantasized about it, they finally put some investment in it, financially and time-wise, and just rolling up their sleeves and deciding they were going to really learn the real craft. And they're writing songs for their churches. People are, really noticing. We got this one guy, I tell you what, Shalom Mukamuri. I just believe that someday anybody paying attention to worship and to art, music artistry, is going to know Shalom's name. I love Shalom. He is a worship pastor up in the Philadelphia area. Hey, Shalom, if you're listening. And watching this uber talented guy just get so in touch with his gift. You can have talent, but you can have raw talent that's not developed. Right. And so God's put me in a position to be able to help Shalom. I mean, first of all, it's the greatest name in the world, Shalom Mukamuri. He was talented, crazy talented, but now he's got the craft to support the talent.
Yeah. Well, and that's what mentorship does. I mean, I think that we all got to hear just a second ago that, you are passionate about the people you get to work with, whether it's, through the boot camp or just through the, the get-togethers on the weekends or the membership. There is a lot of passion behind the curtain, as you said, Mr. Oz, Mr. John Chisholm, Mr. Oz, there is a lot of passion there. And you're not just putting a bunch of content together to throw out there. I mean, I deal with people all the time, every single day, that just want to put content together. They just want to get content out there, because there is kind of a principle of the more content you put out there, the more chances there are for that content to kind of take off and you to get exposure that way. And you can do that, flood the market with content, but you're not doing that. You've put together some really powerful pointed pieces of material and teaching material, coaching material that is fueled by a real drive and passion to see people step into their calling and their gifting and go to the next level with it, not just to stay in the raw, untamed kind of phase, but to actually go into a real polished and kind of thriving mechanism or machine. And I can't stress that enough. Again, mentorship is so key. And I think, again, we'll probably hit on this more on the next episode and then talk more about some practical applications, like what can you actually do? What are some key steps that you can actually take to build your audience and to get more exposure? And that's something I love talking about because I think it really does help people to get some context and perspective. But maybe for this episode, I think we probably zeroed in on the main theme for this one, which is, kind of setting up episode 2 and talking about how to actually build the audience.
Hey, we're going to take just a quick break from the show so that we can let you in on some amazing things happening around here at Nashville Christian Songwriters. Hey guys, John Chisholm here, and I want to invite you to come hang out with me and some very special friends at the upcoming NCS Weekend Intensive. The NCS Weekend Intensive is a 3-day coaching, teaching, and networking experience where you get to come to Nashville and meet my great pro songwriter and music business friends. People like Kenneth Turner West, who's written over 30 #1 songs, and John Mays, founder and A&R director of Centricity Music, home of great artists like Lauren Daigle, Jason Gray, Johnny Diaz, Andrew Peterson, and so many more. Lifeway Worship's creative director Craig Adams will be joining us in April, as well as the premier live music producer Tom Jackson, who's worked with a bunch of amazing people like Lecrae, Shawn Mendes, Francesca Battistelli, Phillips Craig and Dean, and a budding young talent you might remember, Taylor Swift. We've got 3 hands-on coaching sessions where you get real-time feedback on your songs to get you to the next level, and our stellar clinicians bring you world-class teaching to empower and inspire you like never before. Now, these events fill up fast, so we're offering a pre-registration option where you can register early and save $100, and that's a great deal for anybody. NCS Weekend Intensives are happening in April, July, and October, so you can get to the one that's right for you. Just jump over to NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com, click the Weekend Intensive link to read about it, and pre-register today. Hey, I'm looking forward to hanging out with you soon at the NCS Weekend Intensive. Well, I just hope that you'll take advantage of that and check it out. All right? We bring you good stuff here on the Song Revolution podcast. So back to our episode. When we started this 3 years ago, I've not really been totally in business, right? Even though I've been in the music business, I've been in it from the creative standpoint. And God's had me on this amazing journey of learning how to serve people through the business that we do. We're not a nonprofit. I don't go out and raise money to keep the lights on and keep all the ads running and the website bills and everything that we spend, to keep this service going. But we are a ministry-minded business, but I've had to learn how to really serve at a deeper level and get into the mentoring mindset. Okay, here's full disclosure, okay? I was so insecure and stupid, 3 years ago, that it was like when I started, I'd be embarrassed if you saw the first versions of our website, because it was like, hey, look at me, I've been in this thing for 35 years and I'm cool, I've had a bunch of songs recorded and I know a bunch of great famous people, don't you want to come work with me? And it's like, I had to learn that no, it's about serving songwriters and empowering them. It's not about what I've done, although I do have the privilege of downloading, the experience and the expertise and the success that I've had. But that's the thing that I think songwriters need to get, is that your song isn't for you. Your gift isn't for you.
Yeah.
And so these people that say, I just want to use my gifts, well, that can be so self-centered. And it's like, Are you wanting to use your gifts so you're recognized for your gifts? Or are you really wanting to use your gifts to serve people? Can you write songs with your audiences singing in your ears? And you guys, I've had to learn that. I was the reluctant entrepreneur. I didn't really know what I was doing, and God's taught me. He's broken me. I've had to come to the point of humility and saying, wait a minute, my successes don't count. They're Paul would say as dung. It's like, I got nothing, man. I got nothing if it's not helping you. And that's why I spend tens of thousands of dollars marketing. That's why I'm posting in our groups. That's why we talk about what we do. It's to serve you guys. It's to help you truly fulfill this call, truly rise in your passion with wisdom and with knowledge and with power, so that people go, oh my gosh, did you hear that song? It's changed my life. And so that, I don't know, maybe that's too much transparency. I don't know. What do you think, Peter? Did I go over the line?
I think
there?
It's awesome, man. I think we go transparent all day long. I love transparency. I think it's good. Let people see behind the curtain. I love it.
Well, I can't push enough levers to give people talent or to make them a success. All I can do is bring my part to coach and encourage and teach people how to engage their listeners. And so that's what we're about, man. This has been fun. I've really enjoyed this.
Love it. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, John.
This is just part one. Peter's going to be back next week, and we're going to just dig deeper into some very practical things that you can do right now to build an audience for your music, because we are in a new music economy, and you can do this, guys, but you got to write something worth hearing, and that's the whole point. Yeah. So we're here to coach, we're here to help, and that's what we're doing with our NCS membership. If you're not an NCS member, I want to encourage you to jump over to NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com. Just click the big gold rectangle that says Join NCS. It's incredibly affordable. Peter's going to be joining me for the next masterclass, where we're going to go into 90 minutes of very practical, hands-on kind of things that you can do to build and engage your audience right now with your songs wherever you are. And that's going to be happening on March 23rd from 11 a.m. till 12:30. It's live, it's interactive, but you've got to be an NCS member. So jump over to NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com even right now and join NCS. If you pay for the whole year, it's only $14.99 a month. I don't think you're going to find an amazing masterclass and all the other resources, discounts, articles, other videos. You get access to all the past masterclasses and so many great things. We just had one in February on copyright that I think you'd really want to check into. If you're putting your songs out on Facebook or on YouTube, you really want to check into those kinds of things. But masterclasses and discounts and all kinds of great things. Peter's going to be with us, like I said. And we also do a monthly meetup live where you come and get to hang out with me and some other NCS members here in Nashville. That's happening March 22nd. And don't forget, we also have our NCS Weekend Intensive happening April 25, 6, 7. And I don't even have time to go into how amazing that is and all the people that you get to hang out with live. It's 3 days of coaching, teaching, and networking. And last month, well, January rather, we had Jason Gray come and hang out with us for a couple of hours and sing a bunch of his new songs for his upcoming record. And it was just amazing. So anyway, check out everything at NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com and tune in next week, where we're going to bring you part 2 of building an audience for your music with Peter Hartzell from Treehouse Media. Peter, thanks for being with us. And what's your website for everybody to check out?
Website is treehousemediaco.com. And you can go there. You can reach out to me, Peter at Treehouse Media Co. If you have any questions or just need some help, of course, I would redirect you to John with anything relating to your music career and all that. But treehousemediaco.com is my site there.
Peter, thanks so much for being with us, and we're excited about next week's episode.
Yes, sir. We'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks for being here, everybody. Hey, what a fantastic show today. I hope you caught all the value bombs that were dropped on this one and that you'll begin to immediately incorporate them into your songwriting. You know, you can get even more valuable songwriting tools and inspiration when you join NCS membership. You can become a part of a growing community of songwriters from around the world and tap into some of the most powerful resources available to step you up in your songwriting destiny. Check out NCS membership now at NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com and get ready for some exponential power to help you fulfill your call to write. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.